Welcome to the Freedom CEO podcast. It's about becoming the chief decision maker over your life in order to step into a life of freedom. From business, health, wealth, charity, and giving back to just doing life on your own terms. I am your host, Shay Invidiata. I am an award-winning activist, change maker, and a multifaceted impact entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in business, philanthropy, and health and wellness. In this space, I'm going to be bringing you insights, not just from me, but from incredible thought leaders around the globe to help you start making decisions towards living a life of freedom so you can live a life you love. Are you ready, guys? Because we are going all in. She helps women learn the great grandma skills they need in order to live a sovereign life. From canning to soap making, from gardening to creating income, Steph Taylor is a self-proclaimed plant killer, but last year she spent less than $2,000 at the grocery store because she had the skills to build her own food supply right at home. Steph broke free in less than 18 months, and she is passionate about using her skills and knowledge to help other women and mamas leave the system and thrive. Without the BS, only simple and fun is what Steph is all about. And today, with my conversation with her, you are going to see why. Steph is amazing, and she's got so much she's going to share with us. I hope you enjoy. She didn't need to go to the grocery store for almost a year. She's gone from kind of almost broke to cash flowing. Steph, who I call the Homesteader, you are here joining me on the Freedom CEO podcast. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited.
So let's dive into your story, because this is obviously your journey is what's brought you into where you are right now. And one of the interesting things that I learned about you was that it was over a decade ago that you really were learning what's actually in our food, in the products, in the healthcare system. So when you started that, what did you learn? Because obviously that's different for everybody. So tell me, I want to know, what were you digging up?
Well, my husband at the time and we had health issues. I had chronic acne, had it since basically elementary. No one was helping me with anything. It was just script after script. And it was around somewhere in university where I kind of said okay, I need to figure this out. I had been put on medication that ended up landing me in the hospital. I lost some of my organs, and I found out that that medication I was on was actually a chemotherapy drug that was off-labelly prescribed for acne. And that just really had me starting to go, okay, my best interest probably isn't here. So I need to start looking myself. It had been almost years at that point. So I just started, okay, what am I putting in my body? What am I putting on my skin? What are some causes of acne? Learning more about our food, more about our products. And when I just scratched that surface, just barely scratched it, I realized there's not a lot of good here. It doesn't really seem like it's for our benefit. The government doesn't really have a lot of regulations. It doesn't seem like they're really making sure people are being taken care of versus the companies that are paying their political budgets. And so that's when I started, okay, what can I make myself? What can I learn? I mean, I didn't know how to cook at that point. If it took more than 5 minutes to make a sandwich, I was not doing it. I couldn't do any of that stuff, but I started slowly learning just how to simplify, how to go to simple ingredients, because I wanted to know what was going in my body to see how I was reacting to it. So that's where it started. And it was a lot of failures over a decade, but I ended up healing my chronic acne.
Wow.
I was told that I probably wouldn't have kids. I ended up having wonderful children, and now I'm
Amazing.
a mom, which is fantastic. And just through what I've learned, I've been able to help other people, and it's radically changed how I live my life and away from the systems, which wasn't a goal originally, but it became a goal fairly quickly when I realized kind of how deep things went.
Right. And you know, it's funny because you talk about simple ingredients, you know, kind of eliminating having so many, keeping things simple, going back to basics. But simple does not always mean easier and certainly comes with challenges. So I would love to know, like, what were some of those challenges that you experienced in this kind of journey of simplicity, if you will?
I think two things that come to mind. Number one is just how different I felt and just how hard it was to sort of feel like I fit in still when it was, okay, I can't quite eat that. I'm not going to go out and have the junk food, or I watched things a little bit more. I was a little bit pickier about what types of things I purchased at the grocery store. And then going to people's houses was a little
Right.
trickier. So feeling like I was sort of the odd person out
Mm-hmm.
was hard emotionally. And then just trying to explain it, like, why the heck do you want to learn how to grow your own food? Why do you want to learn how to make your own products? That's weird.
Right.
So that was really hard. And then on the other side, actually learning how to do it was really hard. And I found it really hard because I would be going online, I'd be watching YouTube videos, I'd be searching Pinterest, I'd be reading blogs, I would be going to all these different places, and no one kind of said the same thing. So there was conflicting information, and then it didn't work for where I was living or what my reality was, what the budget I had was. And it was so complex that it made me stop a lot of times, or I screwed it all up because it felt so complex and so
Right.
overwhelming. So those were kind of the two biggest things for me that were hard.
Right. And so, you know, I think sometimes maybe people are like, she says this line a lot, which I do, but I really believe that most things worth enjoying, most things worth fighting for that you want in life are on the other side of hard, right? Like if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, but it's going through that challenge, going through that hard where you come out on the other side of that. And you're like, this is it. This was worth it. You know, whether it's a fitness goal, it's a health goal, you're learning a new skill. It's not easy. It takes requirement, dedication, time, effort, tears. I'm sure there were many tears along the way for
Many.
yourself. And when you think of the work you were doing 10 years ago leading up to 2020 became a turning point for all of us, whether we wanted it to or not, right? It shook us to challenge, to consider everything we were doing. And for the people who haven't done that, for me, I think that's unfortunate for them. But I think, you know, in a lot of the circles I'm in, surely that you have created and that you're cultivating just by the sheer fact alone of wanting to teach people on how to grow food, how to provide for themselves. How has the work you did 8 years prior to 2020, how did that change things for you when 2020 hit?
Oh boy. 2020 and 2021 and 2022 were pivotal years for me in my life.
Mm-hmm.
The work that I did prior, for me, it was a lot of screw ups. And that helped me simplify things. So when 2020 and 2021 were happening, and I had this, like, I'd had a nudge to try and get out of the systems for a while. But when 2020 was happening, and I had two little ones, and it was just, I could see what was going on. I needed to get it done. All those screw ups helped me simplify and figure out what I was missing to actually like get out of the system. And now I'm able to teach other people so that they don't have to spend those 10, 15, 20 years plus
Right.
that most people take to get away from the systems. And when I say the systems, it's like the grocery store, the pharmacies, the your own products, money, all that kind of stuff. Like it takes a long time,
Mm-hmm.
but when you simplify it the way I have in these certain strategies, time collapses like crazy. So I was able to get out of the system from not like literally growing nothing, like I'm talking like not even a salad. It was still that bad. To I didn't have to need the grocery store within a
Yeah.
year,
Which is mind blowing. Like,
right?
literally mind blowing. It was what, something like December till August the following year, you didn't step foot into a grocery store and it cost you less than $2,000.
Yeah.
Like,
And
that's mind blowing.
because of my life situation had changed right before that too. So my marriage fell apart, 20 years. My job was mandated. I wasn't going back. It was I had mouths to feed. And
Mm-hmm.
I then relied on what I had developed, which created such an insane amount of freedom. It like it still gets me to this day just how pivotal that was. And the fact that like I still get to spend my days at home with my babies and now I get
Right.
to teach other people to do that too by utilizing the skills that our great grandparents had that we had taken from us via
Right.
convenience.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. I was just speaking with somebody earlier today about how we are so conditioned to not even think outside of the system that we've been placed in. And recently, I reheard Oprah saying that by the time we're the age 7, we're conditioned to be poor,
Mhm.
right? And so, and that's not just even in money. Like, that is everything, right? It's the conditioning that you're not worthy, you're not capable, therefore you need the system, therefore you're going to do what we tell you to do. It's being poor in mind and also in the physical as well, right? And so you did not, it was through COVID that you started to monetize your skills. Am I correct in
Yeah.
saying that?
Yeah.
And so, what was this turning point? What was the aha moment for you that even made you think, like, this, I could make money from this, and, or not even necessarily like could be teaching other people, but, walk me through that. Like, you lose your job because you're not complying.
Uh-huh. I
And
had
where did you have
no
this aha moment?
Yeah, I lost my marriage and my job basically within a week of each other, I'm gonna say, and I struggled for a bit for about a month, just trying to, deal with things,
Yeah.
but then I knew, like, I knew I had this feeling inside me of, like, I don't wanna be a part of this. I don't wanna do the 9 to 5. I'd had situations in my life that happened that I knew the priority was family. I knew there was more. There
Right.
was more than just going to a job. And so I sort of looked and said, what can I do with what I have? What have I learned?
Yeah.
And I looked at my last year where in that time I already didn't have to go to the grocery store. I looked at, okay, how did I actually grow stuff last year versus all of the years prior?
Yeah.
How can I teach that to other people? Because I know they're in the same situation and I know they're really afraid right now of what's going to happen. And food is the biggest thing that
Yeah.
causes people such concern because that's their day to day. You literally eat it like all day long.
Totally.
And then the quality of it too. So that to me was, okay, if I can just help a couple of people, that ripple effect is going to be huge. And so I just sort of put it out there to kind of help people plan their gardens and just start there. And it rippled effect. And it's been the most incredible thing that I can teach people how to do this while I still screw up myself.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. Like imperfectly just showing up,
Yeah,
right?
just to help. Like, why not?
Yes, 100%. Okay, so walk me through your garden because I think for maybe myself, but other people listening are going, yeah, but I can't just like live off of lettuce for a year. Like maybe she can, but a lot of people don't want to live like that. So what are you growing? What type of food is in your house that has allowed you to not go to the grocery store for a year?
So there's a couple of things that I tell people. Number one is look at what you're currently eating. What are some of and like actual ingredients?
Mm-hmm.
So, onions, garlic, potatoes, tomatoes, carrots, greens, fruits. What is it
Mm-hmm.
you're actually eating? What is it that can grow in your area? So starting kind of there, what's on your grocery list, and then how do you buy it? Is it fresh? Is it canned? Is it frozen? Is it dry?
Mm-hmm.
So looking at those different things help you create what you need to build your own grocery store in your house. And I will say this too, even if you live in an apartment or a condo and you feel like you have absolutely no space to be able to do this, I challenge you on that.
Mm-hmm.
I have many students, many different walks of life, different budgets, different locations, and they are able to see it. That's one of the things is like I show them how to see it. So there's a bit of manifestation there too, a visualization.
Yes.
And then they're able to execute it because they feel so much more confident that it's possible now
Right.
versus impossible because they've never done it before.
So what I'm hearing is it's not just lettuce.
No.
There's multiple things there on the grocery list, and
Oh
you
yeah.
don't need to have even a backyard, never mind a farm,
No.
right?
Nope.
So like micro farming, like what would you call that? Micro
I
gardening?
guess. I mean, I don't really do labels. So
Yeah,
it's
fair
just
enough.
utilizing the space that you have and growing strategically based on what your needs are. Actually looking at your needs versus what we've forgotten how to do. We've forgotten to look at our needs versus just like growing a bunch of stuff like, oh, those tomatoes look great. I'm going to get 20 different varieties of tomatoes and then they're
Totally.
going to harvest and what am I going to do with them? So
Right.
really looking at what your actual needs are and then seeing what you can grow in the space that you have. And there's so many different varieties that can grow in different temperatures, can grow in different space requirements. Like there's tomatoes that can bush, so they're a lot more compact versus the ones that vine that then spread out all over the place. Same thing with peas and beans. Like there's lots of different ways to grow. You can grow indoors as well, and you don't need a whole fancy light setup stuff.
Right.
Like I am from Manitoba where like the saying is kind of, well, my saying at least, and Manitobans will totally get this, but it either has to pay for itself, like cost nothing, pay for itself, or pay me to do it. Like
Mm,
we figure it out. Um, and as a single mom too, and as a woman, I'm gonna
yes.
figure it out.
Hmm.
So I have a ridiculous amount of food. I actually grew practically nothing last year because the weather wasn't that great and I put up more food than I ever have before. It's
Wow.
not just me growing it. I'm strategic in what I grow myself versus what I'm able to trade for or what I'm able to get just in the world
Right.
around me through
Right.
foraging. So last year I didn't grow very much because the weather wasn't great. I didn't know where I was going to be living, if I had the house, if I didn't. And so I was very strategic in how I grew, what I grew, and I ended up putting up more food than I ever had before. And that was a combination between what I grew myself, what others grew, what I was able to trade for, what I was able to just find out in nature. So, all of these skills that
Mm,
our great grandparents actually utilized not that long ago
right.
created, like, I literally don't have to go to the grocery store. And it all happened so quickly once it happens so quickly once you figure out what you need to focus on and what you don't and just let go of all that overwhelming stuff.
So what if you're not a vegan? Because I'm not vegan. So I love meat. What are you doing for that? Like, how do you get around that?
Okay, well, last year I ended up raising chickens, meat birds for
Okay.
the first time,
Hmm.
but I will say this, I ended up with almost, I think it was about $1,000 worth of free quality meat.
Cool. How'd you
Yeah.
do that?
It's one
Tell
of the
me.
strategies I teach my students.
I love it.
How to get
Love
free
it.
good food.
Yeah.
Well, there's ways of getting food. There is absolutely ways of getting food. There's ways of getting services. There's ways of getting products. There's ways of getting stuff without the use of money. And you do that through bartering. You do that do trading. You do it through your network. You do it through learning different skills that, again, our great grandparents had. And
Right.
that's how they were able to stay out of the systems. That's how they held their power.
Yeah.
They absolutely held their power. And it's been so fun to kind of explore and test, how far I can go with this
Sure.
now that I know how it all works together.
Totally. And I guess part of that too, right, is you mentioned the word barter, but you're also creating a new community where you're not needing to do this alone, whether you come through somebody like yourself and you're introduced to an instant community, right, through your students that you're working with. But if you're in a condo, are you able to have chickens running around? No. But you can definitely find a farmer that is local in your area to go and get your free range, like truly free range run eggs. Because there are loopholes in Canada around even what that means, which we could
Mhm.
talk about that if you wanted
Whole
to.
other thing.
And same with your beef. Like I have different farmers across Canada actually that I love getting my meat from and chicken because in Toronto, I'm in a condo. So I can do the micro growing, like you're saying, but I don't have a backyard to be able to go, okay, here's my little cow and my goat. And, nor do I really want to actually have to part with that animal to say, I'll see you on my plate in a few hours.
It is something that, I mean, I don't want animals. I am very
Yeah.
much like, I don't want to take care of a whole bunch of stuff. I'm a busy mom. I want to spend my time with my kids. I don't want to have to be looking after stuff. I don't
Right.
even like watering my garden. I don't weed it. Like, I do as minimal as possible here.
Right.
And yet I can do this.
Right.
So when it comes to the animals and the meat and stuff, I only did the meat birds to try it. And then I figured out how to get it. So I don't even have to do that.
And it's like, why not, like, why reinvent the wheel, right? It's a
Yeah.
very big difference in like growing your own garden versus like needing to become an actual cattle caretaker,
Yeah.
which like you're not an expert in that. You don't know how to do that. That is like a whole other lifetime skill, basically. So bartering, trading goods, or going into collaboration of some sort, but just like building out your community,
Mhm.
right? And then also too, you're supporting one another, you're supporting local, and that's all comes around. It's all good to be doing.
Yeah, there's tons of ways that you can minimize your costs to then take that money that you would have been spending at the grocery store to then spend it back into your local community, supporting actual community members, which then builds that trust that, you can utilize later on for something that you don't even know. And your network continues to grow and grow and grow and get stronger and stronger.
Yeah, I love it. So let's talk the basics. As we talk about dumbing things down, simplifying it, and you talk about the basics, 5 things that you kind of go over. So I wanted to pretend like I have clicked on your Linktree link to talk to you about the 5 basics. And I'm going to be putting your details in the show notes. So guys, I definitely recommend that you plug in with Steph, go through this process. But tell me, what do I need to know? What are the basics?
So, the basics is really a program that I put together that encompasses what I feel are the 7 most essential skills that people need to be able to break free from the systems. And those are skills that our great grandparents knew. So, the basics is really everything I learned and figured out, and the strategies and how they all layer together to keep it not overwhelming. So
Mm-hmm.
you go from like beginner to actually out of the system in less than 18 months.
Wow.
So the 7 skills that we focus on are growing your own food, preserving it, so building your own grocery store essentially, then cooking with it, so learning how to cook from scratch, learning how to cook from kind of your great grandmother's pantry, foraging, learning the plants around you that aren't going to kill you, knowing
Right.
what things are,
Yeah.
and then utilizing them for natural remedies for food, taking yourself outside of the medical system, and then DIY. So learning how to make your own products, learning how to build your own things, and then money. So learning how to efficiently and effectively utilize your money, being able to live off of less essentially, but gain more abundance, more
Mm-hmm.
freedom from living with less. So awesome. And then creating your own income. So it's basically all the years of me screwing up and then in a very quick time period figuring it out and getting myself out of the system in less than 18 months, and now I teach that. So that's what the
I,
basics is keeping it simple
I
and
love
fun.
it. I love that. And obviously, you need to be in the course to get the full details, but I would love for you to maybe share one like snippet around money, because it's a very sticky icky for a lot of people. And when you're talking about what are some of those changes that you would maybe recommend, or like that you're advising in order to actually create more money?
So I look at it in two different ways. I feel like people have this fear mindset around money and creating more abundance. And so I'm very much kind of the practical skills, I guess you could say, but
Mm-hmm.
it bleeds into the mindset. So
Okay.
when you start to utilize the practical skills, you decrease your costs and you begin to see how you can capture those costs back, which then gives you more confidence and more breathing room to sort of take more risks, which you don't need to have your job. Like you don't need to work as much. Maybe you can take some more time off. Then you can spend it building your dreams, building more income, creating more income. And in that creating income piece, people maximize their skills. They learn how to utilize their skills to gain more abundance around them. So we sort of do a play on practical
Yes.
practical with the mindset because it builds your confidence. It helps you see what you felt was so impossible, like living in an apartment, living in a condo.
Mm-hmm.
You then recognize, okay, I don't, it may seem so simple to not use paper towels and to just cut up, an old hand towel, but that actually starts to save you a little bit of money over time. And then when you
Sure.
look at it lasts for 20 years, that's a
Mm-hmm.
whole lot of change. And those things start to add up that you can then, not work a day of the week. And
Right.
then you can cut back even more. And that then gives you the confidence to take more risks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you look at, like, you've had a lot of people rolling through your program, and so you're doing this analysis, if you will, looking at where you're spending in the kitchen, on products, cleaning stuff, just everything. What do you find is the most common unneeded expense amongst people?
Well, it's going to look different for everybody because everyone's kind of going to have their own, some people might not want to get rid of paper towels and other people are fine
Sure.
with it type of thing. Um, but I would say it is more things like that, where it's those little things, the paper napkins, the paper towels, the things you don't really think about, but you use all the time. Different things like soap. Soap's actually a really, and I'm not talking like making full on bar soap, but there's different switches that you can do, different levels that you can then make soap for pennies versus
Mm-hmm.
buying it. And it has better ingredients for you. So we do that. We do that from the very beginning. I have a sort of a getting started part to it, your first step, your pre-work, I call it. And that's when people start to see how it all flows out based on their life.
Mm-hmm.
Food is a big one that people start to look at. and they then get to see how simple the shifts are. But in terms of like, if there's one specific thing people spend a lot of money on that they don't realize that can be easily changed, I'm going to say it's more those day-to-day items that we just don't think about. We just use them all the time, or we
Right.
just go and buy them. And it's like, no, dryer sheets is another one. You don't need to use them. They're actually
Oh,
very
they're
toxic.
so bad for you.
So toxic. Fabric softener, bleach. There's so many things that when you start to pull back and you start to then go, okay, how can I create it or how can I get it? You start to see the value of it because you have to put effort into it.
Right.
Then you actually start pulling back going, I don't need all of this stuff. And my
Yeah.
life is so much better when I don't have all of this stuff. I'm healthier, I'm more relaxed, I'm less stressed. Your freedom comes from a multiple places, which is really, really cool.
Totally. I love that. Okay. So the process that you basically take people through, how long does it take to complete like your course? I know you're saying to get out of the system, that's like 18 months to become self-reliant, if you will. What you journey people through, what's that process?
So everything is self-paced.
Okay.
You basically go in. I have this really awesome calendar. So it doesn't matter when you join, you actually go, okay, I join in June. All right, you watch the June stuff. This is what you're focusing on at this time. And you start from there. It takes people, I'm going to say, well, to actually like watch everything, it's a day,
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah.
It doesn't take very long. But as far as implementing, 3 to 6 months is kind of your window of
Yeah.
like where you really put in the work and like see it kind of come to fruition. But a full 18 months where you're getting that second growing cycle to solidify what it is you're doing.
Right. Okay. And so I need to ask you, like, when you decided in this, like, basically a crossroad, right, of 2020, losing your job because you weren't complying, and then looking at how can I monetize everything I've learned? How can I create a business out of, in your words, your failures, like your lessons for people? When you decided to monetize this and put this together, did you at all have this idea that it was going to grow and have this vision and ripple effect the way that it has?
Honestly, no. I had zero idea. And I didn't even have an idea when I was in that place where it's okay, I have to figure stuff out. What am I
Mm-hmm.
going to do? So, figuring out the idea and then executing it has been the most incredible experience. The people that have come, the growth that I've seen in such a short time period has been mind blowing. But the ripple effect too of people learning these skills and then passing them on
Right.
has been incredible. And then, I mean, just the growth, the word of mouth of what the basics is and who I am and what I teach has been really, really cool.
And so what's next? Like, where do you see the growth for yourself or what you're wanting to do with what you've created?
Me, I'm getting on stages. I know that. I know that I'm going to be speaking to so many more people because, again, I want to show people that the impossible is possible. And it doesn't have to be as complex and as overwhelming as we make it, because when you simplify it to the basics,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just these skills. This is a mindset of how you strategically like make it
Yeah.
easier for yourself. The abundance and the freedom that comes is absolutely mind-blowing. So I know that for me myself, I'm getting on stages, I'm speaking
I
big.
love it. Yeah.
But as far as in my program, in the basics and my students, I know that this is it's already in the first year, almost 2,000 people have been impacted by my work.
Wow.
So I know that even this year and continuing on, this impacts not just the people that go through it, but it's generations, it's parents teaching their kids, it's the
Mm-hmm.
neighbors then learning, the family members. It's huge and it's just going to keep going and I love it.
Well, I'm so happy for you. You know, this is what happens when we take aligned action, you know, because you can clearly see you're passionate about it. It's not about the money, it's about the impact and being able to serve people. And that the abundance just flows from that, you know, when you take that aligned action and not ignoring your intuition, not ignoring like that feeling that you said you had where you were like, you've got to wrap this up into some type of package and do something with it, you know, that there's value there. You mentioned offline something that I want to ask you about because I think it's very interesting. You said that in the process of doing this and creating what you have, it's allowed for you to step back into your feminine after living in the masculine for so long, which to some people would actually look like the opposite because you're doing a lot of physical work. You're running your own company, your own business, you know, you're leading other people, you're a mom, you're providing, you're growing food, you're cooking food, like you're doing all of this stuff that, yes, there's elements of sure the nurturing side of the feminine there, but there's a lot around protecting and providing that are really in the masculine energy. So what does that mean for you when you say this has allowed you to step back into the feminine?
For me, for this whole time that I have been figuring this stuff out, I was living in such a state of fear because I knew that what was in our food and what was in our products was not good. And so I was in that I'm trying to provide a safe space for my family. I'm trying to do all the research. I'm in that place that I know a lot of us have been in the last couple of years of just trying to find out whatever information we can. So
Right.
very masculine and not in the creativity, flow, fun, nurturing. So when I figured out the basics was kind of that masculine structure of order and step by step. The research is already done. You've got your strategy, you just know. And it's allowed me as well as my students to step back into that flow because there's room for creativity. You have that safety net, you have that research done, and you're able to have fun. We're very much about simplicity and fun and creativity and flow as part of it. So you're able to get back into that space of being with your kids, being present, not being overwhelmed and worry in this state of fear. It is your safety, it is your security. And when you start to execute it, it literally provides your needs. So you have that done. And whatever's happening in the outside world, you don't have to worry about anymore because you know that you can provide for your family. So it allows women to put that masculine shield down and get back into that place of safety and security and flow and creativity and fun and block out everything else. So it's happened for me and now it's happening for my students, which has just been, it brings me to tears when I think about it because I know that level of stress and sort of feeling disjointed when you are in the masculine and not in the feminine.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And it's so important, right, to be balanced in both, you know, not to deny the feminine and not to allow the masculine to not be there, to like to it serves as a very strong purpose, obviously, but there's a lot of women that struggle in bringing in the masculine. It's usually like the opposite. So it's so interesting, again, like why when you said that, it was like, I need to ask you more about this because most women are challenged in stepping into their masculine role of leadership, of providing, of protecting. And so you need to, not that you need to, but you should, like the goal is where they both coexist.
Yes.
You know, and that you can do this dance between the feminine and the masculine. And so I love that. I love how you are calling the feminine back in. And you've created this space for her through your program, which is so special. It's very cool. Okay, so I have one final question for you because You are on the Freedom CEO podcast, obviously for a reason, which I think most people can understand why. A lot of your decisions that you've made have brought in this freedom, and you've spoken about it a lot. But what does taking ownership over your decisions, over your life, what does that freedom actually mean to you? Like, what is that freedom for you?
You're going to make me cry.
Aw.
It has brought me back to myself. It has helped me see who I am really, because when I was faced with a choice in two different situations, very much at the same time, I made those choices based on my gut, my intuition that I had ignored for far too long. And then everything started to line up exactly. And it led me to more freedom, more happiness, more ability to be myself. And honestly, in the last year that I have been growing this business, I have been more me. And the people that have come into my life know me as me, who I actually am, not hiding anymore. And that has given me such an incredible new level of freedom that I didn't think was possible. I didn't know why. I just, you hide yourself.
Sure.
You get into things that you hide yourself. So it's literally changed my life by taking these steps and brought me back to me.
I love that. Wow. It's coming home to yourself.
The ultimate freedom.
Right? It is the ultimate freedom. That's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Steph, I'm so grateful for your knowledge, for your wisdom, hearing your story. It's so encouraging, and it's just such a humbling reminder that if you can do it, anybody can do it, right? Like, it's just such a powerful reminder that you're able and you're capable, and it starts in your mind, and changing that mindset and starting to just take action and see what happens.
Yep.
I always say, if you do nothing 100% will happen. But if you do something might just happen. Yes. And you have gone on to impact the lives of directly 2,000 people that have an even bigger ripple effect of other people indirectly that you have helped. So I cannot wait to see you taking the stage. I know you are going to be there. And so I'm excited for you and grateful for your courage, to stay true in such a hard time, first and foremost, in standing up, but then just being love and light and showing up as you to serve so many people. So thank you. Thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you. This has been absolutely awesome. I have loved talking to you, and it's been such a great experience to, again, be able to talk with somebody that kind of understands the full impact behind choosing your freedom on so many levels, and encouraging other people and inspiring other people that you can do this. The impossible actually is possible.
Totally. Well, I think it's safe to say that we will book you to come back on the show after your first stage experience. How about that?
That'd be amazing.
All about that. Yes. So I'm going to manifest it with you.
Sweet. That's awesome. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the Freedom CEO podcast. If you got value out of today's show, I would love for you to leave a review, as it will help my show reach other people as well. You know what to do. Download this episode, click the like and subscribe button. If you feel like spreading more love, hop over to Instagram and share today's show in your stories. Remember to tag Shane Vidiata and the Freedom CEO. My DMs are always open, so drop me a line. I'd love to connect. Until next time, keep owning your decisions to live a life of freedom. Live a life you love.